guess that wasn't working. All right, so let me just start with the other one.
This entire military is one cohesive, dedicated force. And the threats to our nations, they don't sleep. They're watching our every move. Iran, Russia, China, North Korea, ISIS, Al-Qaeda. They may be watching this right now. Our military should not be mistaken for a cable news gab-fed show. We don't care what you look like. We don't care who you voted for, who you worship, what you worship, who you love. It doesn't matter if your dad left you millions when he died or if you knew who your father was. We have been honed into a machine of lethal moving parts that you would be wise to avoid if you know what's good for you. We will not be intimidated. We will not back down. We don't want war. But if you want war with the United States of America, there's one thing I can promise you, so help me God. Someone else will raise your sons and daughters.
Opinions.
Introducing LT Defense Tactical Gear, your ultimate solution for top-notch protection and performance in the field. Our armor bundles provide unmatched safety and comfort, while our battle belts and holsters ensure quick and easy access to your gear. Stay prepared for any situation with our high-quality medical supplies, designed to keep you ready for action at all times. Looking to enhance your skills? Our firearms training programs will take your proficiency to the next level. Trust LT Defense for all your tactical gear needs and gear up for success on the battlefield.
Opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Money in the Military. My name is Joey, aka the Fire Social Worker. And today we have a special guest. We have Matthew Rich, goes by Matt. He is an MSW, LMSW, CFSW. He's got all those cool acronyms behind his name, but he's got a really cool story. We connected on LinkedIn, and just I'm just curious to really pick his brain and learn about his story. So welcome, Matt. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, hello, and thanks for having me, Joey.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah. So I actually stumbled upon you, just as a quick backstory, on the Center for Financial Social Work page. So there's like a member page where you can kind of create like a little mini profile and people can, basically find you. That's how I stumbled upon you. And as soon as I found you, I was like, I have to speak to this person. I must meet this person. I must know about this person, because you are at the point between two places of the military world and then social work and then financial social work. So yeah, as soon as I heard about your resume and everything, I was like, okay, I gotta meet you and then hopefully share your story with my MBR family. So with that being said, let's can you give us a brief, maybe some background about your military service, and then we can talk a little bit about how you went from your military service to social work. And then we can get into maybe, your transition into financial social work. So,
for sure.
Go ahead and start with your military service.
Yeah. So served in the U.S. Marines from June 2010 to December 2016. I had the delightful opportunity to hang out in Parris Island for 3 months during the summer. It was god-awful heat. It was a good time. Yeah, it was a great time. Just dying with sand fleas and everything else. And then, so graduated, went to Marine combat training over in Camp Geiger in North Carolina, did my A school and C school between Cherry Point, North Carolina, Pensacola, Florida. I was an aviation ordnanceman. We're not the brightest bunch. We're just, we just put, like holes in the grounds, and, we're just in the landscaping business. It's a good time.
Okay, nice.
After all my training, I went to Korea for a year, did a lot of warehousing and such. Being in a foreign country for a year, it was interesting. And again, no combat deployments. So being in there as more of like, friends to the Koreans and such, it was interesting. A lot of good memories there. Then I PCS'd to Beaufort, South Carolina. Shortly after being there, I got married to my wife. And then after 2 years in Beaufort, we went to Marine Corps Base, Hawaii. And I left the Marines as a sergeant. So a lot of Marine sailors, I was in charge of sailors out in Hawaii that I got to interact with. A lot of good folks that I had. A lot of folks that I don't care to remember. I had so many interesting stories that's not appropriate for this show, but
Okay,
God,
fair enough.
it was a lot of interesting times over those 6.5 years. So yeah, it was a good time in the Marines. I enjoyed it. I'm just happy to not be in it anymore, to be completely honest.
Okay.
So,
Well, yeah, my dad was he's a retired Marine, and I was a military brat, so I've been around the Marines my whole life. So it's an
special
interesting.
bunch.
Yeah, what was that?
I'd say we're a special bunch.
A special bunch. Yeah, definitely a soft spot in my heart, though. So yeah, so you went from active duty. So then, what was your transition from active duty like, or how did that go?
Yes, that was tough. So it was the very end of December of 2016 is when we came back to the Cleveland area. So I'm from the Cleveland area of Ohio. Throughout this part of like Lake Counties where we always been, it was tough. It was not easy. Financially, I mean, there's a reason why I'm a financial social worker now.
There
you go. We did not do well financially. We're still paying off the mistakes that we made from our time in our military service. But then January of 2017 is when I enrolled in a community college for human services. And that transition, getting into education, really helped bring me into some sort of normalcy for civilian life. Because you take a Marine out of the Marine Corps and kind of throw them in like society. It is not easy. It is not an easy transition. I can't speak for any other branch, but I can say for me and all my peers that got out roughly the same time, we were all going stir crazy. Like, what do we do? How do we talk to people?
Right.
So, yeah. So thankfully, going to school, which had its ups and downs, that was a good opportunity for me to understand, like, oh, this is what it means to have like 3 times your income for housing. Oh, this is what it looks like for grocery money, because I don't have, BAH or what is that, BAS anymore. Like, I don't have these things. So that little switch, learning those nuances, those little, what do you want to put, those life skills that didn't know in the military, in the Marines. This was good. I'm happy that I'm on the back side of it now than the front side, but it was tough to begin with.
Yeah. So what was the biggest transitional challenge for you? If you kind of elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah. So trying to figure out, okay, so I know I want to get into social work. I worked with a local, he's kind of like a job coach, if you will. Very thankful for where he got me, but some of the crazy things he did towards the end of our relationship, I was like, this dude's nuts. Like, you need to go away. If I'm just being honest, I'm like, you just need to go. But I am thankful for him helping me draft a resume and get in contact with people and such. I am very thankful for him for that. So he's the one that steered me towards social work. And I'm like, okay. And then I start into a very, it was going to a community college, kind of interacting with some of the veterans over there. I'm like, am I taking crazy pills? Like, some of these folks, I'm like, I thought I had some crazy stories and like some interesting challenges, but I'm like, y'all are you have the same bunch, but like, you too are like doing some goofy things right now. So it's like coaching people when you don't even know what you're doing. I thought was interesting. Educating people about their benefits. Like, I had one individual, she was telling me that she didn't want to use her GI Bill because she didn't want people to think she was poor. I'm like, what? No. Like, yeah,
that's a new one.
Yeah, I was like, what are you talking about? Like, that's not a thing. What do you know? Yeah. So I mean, and so I'm bringing with me my own trauma, because there's a reason why I got out early. I had a lot of traumatic brain injuries. That's causing me some physical issues to this day. So kind of working through those struggles, working with the VHA, so the Veteran Health, that's a fun time. I'm sure we'll. I worked for the VA, so I'm sure there's gonna be some nice crossover there. And so it's the working with the VHA, so working that section of the VA, learning how to use my GI Bill, learning school.
Mhm.
And like I said, I have a wife and I have 2 children. Like, so it's also being a provider. Like, how do
Yeah.
we blend these things together? So that's where the challenge is how to, beforehand in the military, it was easy. Like, I didn't realize how easy military life was until I got out.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
you can't re-enlist? I was like, crap, what do I do? So it's
Right.
basically, and I just got to figure it out. I just got to pony up and I got to deal with it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So you were transitioned from Marine Corps, then you went to community college, and then you went to I'm assuming like a 4-year college after that, and then got your BSW in social work, or how did that work?
So August of 2017. So the program chair of the human services degree with Lakeland Community College, it's called. She was an Ursuline College alumni. And she was stating, like, if you want a good undergrad social work degree in Cleveland, you go to Ursuline College. So it's my plug-in for Ursuline College. Fantastic
Nice.
school. And so I met the program director, who recently just passed away, which was very hard to kind of get through that, because she was instrumental with me with my career as a social worker. I met with her, and we kind of like teased everything out. So I finished my August of 2017, I began with Ursuline College, and then through 2020, so May of 2020, I graduated. And if you're triggering COVID right now, that's right. I did my in my last bit of my field placement through COVID. I still remember I forget what it was. It was the day that right before we shut down in Ohio. So around March 1st, I was still called to my field placement site, and I just still remember the pandemonium, people running all over the place. The first day, I just remember I just had this horrible migraine, and I'm over here juggling all these issues, like residents, because I was at a life plan community. So these older adults, they were like, "Oh no, what do you can?" And I'm like, I'm gonna do the best I can today. So it was checking my feelings, their feelings, the staff feelings, and you realize like social workers are not just there for the clients and the patients; they're also there for their peers and the other folks they work with. So it was some challenging times, and it was nice that we got pulled out of our field placement, because I'm like, I don't know how much longer I could deal with this bananas. So So then after that, I started at Case Western Reserve University. Didn't go very well, putting it mildly there. So I had like I had like this midlife crisis of like, what am I going to do with social work? Like, I don't know what I'm going to do. So I took some time, and then I decided to do the Ohio State University online. So I started that in June of 2021, and then I graduated in May 2023 with my Master of Social Work.
Nice. That sounds like a journey. And honestly, I see a lot of myself in that journey. I also separated in May of 2020, so I separated right in that window of time. So my separation was really weird, and so I definitely feel you in that regard. So now you're a social worker. You got your MSW, and then like your transition kind of. I don't know, like I guess what from MSW, what was your next transition point from there?
So great question. So that's the transition point I'm in right now. So I think it'd be worth kind of backing up just a smidge. So 2018, June of 2018, I was applying for a bunch of different jobs because I needed to get to work. Like, going to school is great, but after a year and a half out of working, I'm like, I need to get to work. So I was applying for different jobs, working with a voc rehab counselor with the Cleveland VA, kind of ad hoc. I wasn't an actual patient of his, but just kind of like ad hoc because he went to Ursuline as well. We got to chit-chatting. I put in a Pathways application in with the VA. So Pathways was I'm not exactly sure the status of the program, was started by the Obama administration, and it allows for veterans in particular to get into government service because the government service employees were graying out. They needed younger people in there, kind of backfill them. So these were administrative to get you into those roles. And it has to be within your degree field, right? So even though work is clinical, they found like this, like, hey, even though you're going for this, we're going to plug you into the social work service. You're going to be doing some of the administrative functions for them, which is in turn going to help the social worker. I'm like, however we need to say it is fine by me. I just need a paycheck. So that's what it came out. So I met with the assistant to the director for the Cleveland VA. Him and I had a fantastic conversation. Had 2 more interviews, one with a clinical social worker and then another with the chief of social work for Cleveland. They all were like, yeah, you're going to come to us. So I started working as an administrative student trainee under the Pathways program with the VA until about August of 2020. I transitioned to the compensated work therapy program under social work, which that is if any veteran needs help finding a job or having lack of job skills, right?
Yes.
Chapter 31 is not your only source. You can ask your primary care provider with the VA to ask for a compensated work therapy consult, and you can get vocational training. So I'll plug in for them. So I was there, the program assistant for about good 3 years. And again, I'm still going to Ursuline. I'm still going to Ohio State. These things are still occurring. And I took my last year in my role, the chief of social work allowed me to do my field placement while still working. So I basically kind of split my time, if you will, which was fantastic. So I did my field placement at the Cleveland VA Emergency Department, which was, it's not like, our Metro or Cleveland Clinic ED where they see all sorts of fun things. Ours is much less intense, but there was some, I saw death, and I saw there was one individual, he, all we heard was this blood curdling screaming coming through the hallways. And we're all like, what's going on? He was in a dental appointment, and the drill bit snapped and went to it lodged in his throat.
Wow.
Yeah. So you're just like, these are the things you get inundated day after day, and it's like just death and death. And you're like, okay, this is starting to trigger me a little bit. So that was a very good opportunity for me to, again, with answering the point of the transition, it was these things like working and getting experience and learning how to be functioning as a worker outside the military and all these other things. These are the things that happen to help solidify our transition. So then after I graduated and after the field placement, I began my social work career as basically I was a case manager within a sober living house. So I saw veterans with severe mental health, SMI, so severe mental illness, SUD, so addictions, trauma, so much trauma. So I was case managing with these folks, and they're, and they're homeless, just checking all the wickets for veterans. So I'm over there trying to plug them in with housing and substance use and this and that. And so I did that for a year, and I actually just left the VA in June of this year. So just recently to pursue a career as a therapist with the Christian Counseling Associates of Western Pennsylvania. So they're making an impact into the Cleveland area. So I'm their first counselor in the Willoughby location. Which is exciting to say the least. Getting my networking feelings out and learning how to interact with faith-based, and because I'm a diehard Christian myself. Funny term, I just put that. But anyway, so that's kind of like that intersection. And I was telling my my supervisor about the certified financial social work, and she's like, ping, 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 that sounds wonderful. So that's kind of how that transition with work and school and married life, that's all how it kind of blended together.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's awesome. We're going to take a quick break. And then when we get back, I do want to pick your brain a little bit more about financial social work. And then, and I'm going to show a quick video from a United States Marine Corps veteran, Noah Peterson, who has been on the MBR platform for a while. So we're going to listen to some of his funky grooves, and then we'll be back with Matt Rich.
opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
All right, and we're back on Military Broadcast Radio, giving veterans a voice. I got Matt Rich with me, a certified financial social worker, military veteran, and just a lot of different hats that it sounds like you're wearing. So yeah, before the break, we were talking about your transition into certified financial social work, your transition to social work in general. So I did want to just kind of pick your brain a little bit about what inspired you to get the certification, and what are your goals with the certification, and in maybe using it in your practice.
Yeah. So when I jumped into social work, so I was talking to, again, the program director with Ursuline, and the, what would you call her? Like the field liaison, I guess you would call her. So she, talking to them, and I was like, I want to get into industrial social work. I don't see myself getting into therapy, which, looking back on that conversation, that's funny. That's quite ironic. But here we are with, that was kind of like my original mindset, is like this industrial social work field. And I had a lot of interest in financials, personal financial management, just because of my own mistakes. Kind of even when I was in the military, trying to coach people, the cliche of the junior Marine, junior sailor going out to a, auto dealership by the airport or what have you, paying 29.9% on a car they can't afford, the ultimate cliche here. So I just remember as a sergeant, me losing my mind over this. So I'm like, how can I pull those two things together? And they were like, well, there's this thing called the Center for Financial Social Work, and they have a certification program. Like, neat. Let me take a look. Well, broke college student Matt couldn't pay the money up front, which I'm now glad to see that they're now offering different payment methods and such to offer people those certifications. That's great to see. But originally it was like, what, $750? I'm like, I can't afford that right now. So after talking it over with them, I brought it back to the chief of social worker with the VA. He goes, love it. As soon as you can do it, do it. And it was my final year within Ohio State. So mind you, that was a big gap in there where I was just kind of ruminating on this, trying to find those connections. And I finally completed the certification program. Very enlightening. And even as I was going through it, it's not the best place to do it, but in the ED, you can find your little plugins here and there, especially when it comes to social determinants of health and how the finances kind of go with there. So I would do a little plug. But that's where it kind of started, was them placing the little seed there and me kind of expanding on it.
Okay. So you got your certification, and then, I guess, have you had a chance to use it in practice yet? Or how does that look like?
For sure. Okay, so as soon as I became the case manager for the sober living environment, they're coming in with homelessness. They're unbanked or underbanked. So don't have any idea, even though they're in the check system. So we got to find second chance checking accounts for them, like all these things that they're having. There's a lot of barriers for them. And again, because we're part of what my program is that compensated work therapy program I was talking about. You have to be accepted into that program to come to our sober living environment. So there's a lot of vocational pieces that you need a checking account for, or a savings account to get direct deposits. So, and I was also coaching and educating on how to find, how do you do a budget? What does a budget look like? Now, with VA policies and such, I can't do it for them. What the Center for Financial Social Work, explains in the certification program, what we can do, the VA really is and there's surface level stuff we can do, which is unfortunate, but that's just the way it is. So I did a lot of financial psychoeducation with my veterans. I did a lot of, hey, so when you get paid, what are the things, how are you tasking out your money? I would get them, I would print off account ledgers. So I just made one on Excel, print off account ledgers for them so they can write down their expenses. So they can see where their money is going, bounce it back to their budget, look over their budget. And so they're kind of maintaining these two things. Now, it's the 21st century. Is pen and paper the best way to do it? I say yes. Some people like apps. There's a bunch of apps out there. So these are the things I was doing constantly. So I was meeting with my veterans at a minimum every 2 weeks. And without fail, I'm usually spending about 10 minutes on financial psychoeducation to help steer the conversation, because when they leave that environment, they're going to be on their own, right?
Yeah.
So they'll learn how to make their housing payments and buy groceries and do these things. And oh, by the way, as I mentioned, they have severe mental illness and SUD. So there's addictions and everything going on. What structures and what, positive steps can they take, and what attitudes, can they form in such behaviors, I should say, so that when they leave, their chance of relapse and chance of homelessness goes down. That's the goal. So with that certification, I used it all the time with my veterans. And actually, because of that, I was trying to find, what does the VA offer? The VA is massive. The amount of resources that employees get it's just insane. So I actually, through networking and kind of navigating my way through, I stumbled upon the Center for Veteran Financial Wellbeing. And I was in contact with the director of that center quite a bit. Unfortunately, due to other things, we kind of fell off with each other, which is fine. Things happen. But the VA recognizes the lack of financial competency for veterans. Some of this is due to the, like I said, the VAH, VAS, like this idea of how finances are. A lot of folks coming into the military already have trauma. They're already bringing a lot of baggage with them. And as the certification with financial social work goes, there's a lot of biases that you bring into your money from what you saw from your parents and what you saw from friends and neighbors and like all these things. So when we get to see them, like at our stage, things have gone. If I'm seeing you in a sober living environment, things went wrong. Like things went way wrong years ago. So we need to start adjusting these things a little bit. And it's great to see that the VHA part of the VA, they recognize that this is a need, right? Because typically what would happen is if somebody was abusing, we're going to use some fun bunny ears here, abusing their pension or their service connection benefit, or again, there's a few other ones in there. All a primary care provider had to do is put in a competency eval, and you can and get a fiduciary for your VA money. So you could just be marginally not making the best decisions for yourself, right? And that you can be deemed incompetent. All right. And if that's the case, you get a fiduciary, and you'll have somebody overseeing your funds, and will pay it out as they see fit. Now, a lot of times that's probably important, but I mean, how many times have we seen that abused? I mean, I've seen it quite a few times, and I'm like, no, that's not okay. So we're actually looking at this as a way of, hey, let's empower veterans. Let's empower the providers that are interacting with veterans to give them the resources they need. And I tell you what, with everything that they were gathering together on the SharePoint that I was reviewing, man, they're trying to take it head on. But when I left, it's still very novice, and the VA is a slow machine. So I might be retired as a social worker before we see any impactful change, unfortunately. But that's kind of where they're at. And, it was, again, kind of looking at macro back down to micro, seeing these things, it encouraged me to be like, I'm leaning into this, right? Because a lot of times, again, I'm of my Christian background, faith and money was not something social workers talked about. And that was my bread and butter. Like all I did was talk about faith and spirituality and money. And honestly, I saw a lot of positive outcomes with my veterans. They really enjoyed it. It went deeper. They can feel it went deeper than what they normally would get from other providers, from what they've explained to me. That's not me to my own horn. That's what they shared with me. And it encourages me to continue on that path, because that's where the healing and that's where the impact happens. Like all this other surface level stuff will figure itself out once we get deeper into the conversations, deeper into what the trauma is or the addictions or what have you.
Yeah, that's awesome. So one thing I was going to ask you about is with your putting on your social work hat and your financial social work hat, and looking at, you mentioned the macro impacts and everything like that, but is there anything that if you had a magic wand, and you could change, the financial, make it a huge financial impact on the military in general, where would you start? Would you start active duty military? Would you start like transitioning veterans like from active to, to veterans, or would you focus on when they're veterans and then giving them coaching and counseling at that stage? Like where would you see would be the best impact?
Best impact. Honestly, I would do that. None of what you just said. I would actually say that in the beginning of their military career. So
Okay.
this would be as soon as they're getting into like that boot camp, coming out of boot camp. So once they hit the first duty station, that is where there needs to be some sort of impact for financial well-being, like education, coaching, things like this. Towards transitioning would be another point that, I would put some effort, and definitely for veterans. But if anything, it would be in the beginning of that. So they're going to see the money coming in. I mean, I remember looking at my LESs and I'm like, woo, I got money to go hit the clubs tonight. Sounds great.
Yep.
Like, and I can pay off my bills. Cool. Here I go. And then I was broke like 3 days later. So learning how to budget and such, because I came from a background that didn't happen. I'm a Great Recession kid. So I still have fond memories of the Great Recession. So I just remember when money was coming in, money was going out, and parents always arguing over money. So that was my idea. So I think looking back at it and looking at some of my peers that I joined the Marine Corps with and seeing where they're at, that is where I would really tackle the financial well-being issue is there. It should be along the way. It should be at transitioning, should be at veterans, but certainly when they're younger, getting into the military is where I would target.
Yeah. Yeah, because I was thinking about it too. The DoD, as an entity, can do a lot of a great impact with like the full spectrum. Like you said, if they start in, and I will admit, like I joined in 2006, and I do remember in basic training there was a segment on finances. It was very short, and I think I remember it at my first duty station when I was in like orientation for all first term, military members who were just brand new to the base. Like we had to go through a finance thing too, but I'm pretty sure that was it. There was no real follow on of your financial literacy. There wasn't much, continuation of that. So yeah, I agree with you that I think the DoD could do better and be more proactive with people's finances, and maybe they are now since I've been out for about 4 years. Maybe they are doing some better things, but from the feedback that I'm getting from talking to veterans right now and have gotten out within the last 5-10 years, they're all saying a very similar thing of like, man, I wish that the military prepared me with their finances, So that's just something I was just curious from your experience and your, your background, like what would you do if you had, the magic purse strings to put all the money into the programs that would actually help the homeless veterans before they ever become homeless, So that's probably a high level. That's above our pay grades at this point, but at the very least, we could still advocate and talk about it and have a discussion. So
yeah. And when we look at homelessness too, financial is just a piece. I mean, a lot of it's because they're homeless and a lot of addictions in there. Even when you're just saying like, yeah, I remember like the first term guys when they first hit the base, I was like, I'm still looking at boot camp. I'm like, can I shoot somebody in the face? Check. I can do that. Can I do, because Marines. And then I remember I got the base, like, all right, check in as fast as possible so I can go start building up warheads. Got it. Like, that's all I don't remember ever. So maybe it sounds like you got a lot more comparatively, which also shows you the disparity between the branches, right? Some branches will offer more resources to their service members compared to others. And I think it needs to be, I know, social worker here, it needs to be equal across the board. DoD needs to recognize it as such and keep it an even keel, for all service members, so they all get the same material, so they're all equally beneficial because we all get paid the same.
Yeah, I love it. All right, well, we're gonna take another quick break, and then we're gonna come back with Matt Rich, certified financial social worker. So stay tuned. Here's Noah Peterson again. USMC veteran and jazz musician. Here we go. All right, and we are back with Matt Rich. This is Joey Laswell. I'm the fire social worker, and I actually noticed we did have a comment from another certified financial social worker, Dr. Sandra Parks. Um, I've been connected with her for a while, and I've been actually wanting to work with her because she's really good with problem gambling. Like she's really big into the
Oh,
addiction gambling space, or
yeah,
especially
yeah.
with like the rise in sports gambling, things like
Mhm.
that. So she's really big in that space. So I would love to have her on, and she just commented this was a great conversation. So that means a lot coming from Dr. Park. So I appreciate the support. And then, yeah, I was notified by Joel, who runs the numbers behind the scenes with MBR, and he said that we've got about 35 people watching on TikTok right now, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And
Well, hello to the
he
TikTokers out
does
there.
have some questions that people are asking. Yeah, yeah. And that's actually I've neglected TikTok and even Instagram. I haven't really been putting as much stuff out there, but I know I'm going to do that here shortly. But yeah, it's I guess people are liking what we're saying, we're talking about, so that's cool. Um, so yeah, as we were, we'll see if any questions come in and we can address those as they come in. But we were talking about kind of big picture stuff, like more macro things of
Hmm.
what can the DoD do to help the military community, the veteran community
Hmm.
with their finances.
Hmm.
But I did. So there was something that was interesting that I did want to talk to you about was part of your continued service, um, and I had to look this up a little bit, but you are part of the what was it? Maritime? No, just go ahead and what was it that you're part of right now? The Ohio Navy. Wait, I think we might have frozen him. Well, this happens sometimes, but looks like we have frozen Mr. Rich. But we're gonna wait for him to come back. But yeah, I'll just go ahead and briefly talk about how he on his LinkedIn he has a section for the where is it? I'm pulling it up now. Um, Ohio Naval Militia. So this is a whole. I had to look. Like I said, I had to look that up. But the Ohio Naval Militia. So we're gonna hopefully talk about that. So it looks like we lost him. This happened last night actually with Dr. Marina Diaz, the AI social worker. All right, well he's coming back. So we'll see. Get him back on here. All right.
Hey,
Sorry
sorry
about.
about that.
No,
That's the
you're
fun thing
good.
about living out in the middle of the sticks.
Oh,
We've been
okay.
having a lot of internet issues lately with the local stuff, so I just kind of switched it over to my phone. So hopefully no more
Okay.
issues. But we've been having problems all the time. So sorry about that.
No, you're fine. Like I said, it happened last night. This is live, so as you can tell, these things kind of
Yeah,
happen sometimes. But
for
yeah,
sure, for
well,
sure.
before you cut off, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about your Ohio Naval Militia experience. So can you?
Oh, yeah,
I'm just
yeah,
curious about it, and I just wanted to just learn more about it, I guess.
for sure. So yeah, I joined the Ohio Navy back in what was it, 2022? Yeah, so 2022. So I was working with a financial advisor who deals specifically for VA employees, and he was, saying like, "Hey, have you thought about joining the Ohio State Defense Force?" I'm like, "You're here to help me with like my TSP and my pension. Like, why are we derailing over here?" But I'm like, "No, I haven't." He goes, I'm like, "Yeah." So he's like, "You should look at the Ohio Naval Militia, the Ohio Navy." And I'm like, "Okay." So I looked into it. Looked super fascinating. So I did a site visit with them. It was great, and I enlisted. They took my same rank as when I was in the Marines, so I went to an E5. So I was a second class petty officer. No shocker to anyone, I was actually a Navy counselor, so I was an NC with them. So they made that push through. I was part of the training division, so I did everything. I actually was the recruit division commander. So the one photo you put up, you'll see the red rope. That's because I was kind of like a drill instructor, whatever that is.
Nice.
So it's a good time. So I love doing it. So our mission is if for anybody that's in Ohio that's heard of Port Clinton, that's where the National Guard shoots. So the National Guard has a rifle range out there that they use. And Beaufort, South Carolina. So Parris Island's rifle range is very similar. There's no berm, there's no back wall. So the projectiles go straight into like the body of water behind it. In this case, Lake Erie. So we actually kind of patrol the cordoned off area, keeping people safe. So it's a lot of like safety. We do some education with the captains that like to violate and go into the live fire range. And it's great because it supports the state of Ohio. So there's the active duty military, there's reserve military, there's National Guard. We're like the back here, like in the fourth. So it's up to the prerogative of every governor if they want a state defense force. A lot of states actually do have defense forces. Ohio's is a little more robust. Texas, Florida have very robust ones. I think New York, South Carolina, they have some good ones. Tennessee has a great, like an Army-based one. So for people who are like, yeah, that sounds goofy, like militia, that seems like, nah, it's pretty up the cuff. It's really neat. It's actually codified in the OCR, so the Ohio codified, our laws. So they're in there. So it's legit. It's a good time. Same thing I got from the Marine Corps. Actually, I get over here. So there's a lot of prior service folks. Right now, usually we got our own little, because I'm an ensign, so I got commissioned officer, which actually does mean something. So if we ever got recalled, I would get an E-pay, which anytime, like recall. And I know, I tell you what, like, come on, hit me up. So, but I saw the Bull Ensign is the lead. He's the most senior ensign. So all us ensigns kind of get together. We created this little organization within the organization called like Order of the Deep. So it's this time, like for me and my peers, like the three of us kind of talk shop, understand like, hey, what are some of the things going on in the command? What can we do as like, the junior officers, what we can do to support them? So my two peers that joined me, I mean, they're fantastic. And that it's just how it was in like your experience, my experience on the federal side. So that's how I differentiate. I did as a federal side and the state side. I got schooled very quickly on terminology with them. But on the federal side, it's the same thing. Like we joined for camaraderie, we joined for experiences. I mean, last year we saved a kid from drowning. I've yet to figure out what this kid was trying to do, but his like little play mat that you get to jump on the water with, it was going out. The storm was coming in, and for anybody that knows Lake Erie, as soon as a wind comes out of the north, just don't go out in the water. Don't do it. We just had 2 people recently die in Lake Erie because they don't understand our lake, and it's absolute bananas. So this kid is going out right into the channel with all these boaters coming in, and they're trying to get away from the storm. And he's going right out. Like he could have gone under a hull, kind of cut up by a prop. He was like underwater.
Wow.
What are you doing? So I to some people's anxiety, I almost jumped in and like swooped him. But thankfully he got up. We coached him to go back. So, I mean, there is an impact. Like saving a kid's life. I mean, that's nothing.
Yeah.
That's nothing. No small feat. So, I mean,
exactly.
it's fun. It's an experience to say the least. I'm learning how to pilot a boat. We got Coast Guard boats that they go pretty fast, so it's a lot of fun. So yeah, it's a good time, and there's a lot of crossover. Again, I'm the training officer, so a lot of the stuff I learned in the Marine Corps, I can apply it here. And also with me being a social worker, and again that Navy counselor background, if not officially, so we're gonna make that very clear, not officially, but if someone's going through a hard time and they know that I have a social work background, I'll usually sit down and talk with them and kind of parse through some things, and if anything needs to get tossed up, I'll usually refer them to the chaplain so it can go up properly. So that's some of the stuff I do for them as well. So it's all exciting. My wife's like, who are you sometimes? Like, who are you? Like, are you my husband? Like, when are you home? Like, yeah, I'm here. So yeah, it's good. It's a good time.
That's awesome. Yeah. Like I was just thinking you have so many hats that you can wear that you probably do wear. You take them off and put them on in different times. But But in referencing a new hat that you're putting on, we had actually had a comment from Dr. Parks again. She said that she would love to hear more about how you're integrating faith and finance with the Certified Financial Social Work certification. So yeah, go ahead and jump in on that.
Yeah, so not exactly positive. Sorry, Dr. Parker. So this is a new area. This is a small organization I work for. So it's Christian Counseling Associates. It's growing. When I said I am a certified financial social worker, even my supervisor was like, "Oh, what's that?" Very inquisitive. So part of my practice as a social worker is right from the rip, why are we meeting, right? Like nothing crazy here on it. Off an evaluation, off your assessment, right? If, for instance, there's marital issues going on. Okay, is it unfaithfulness? Is it this? I mean, usually it's unfaithfulness and financial struggles. There's like your large amount of times where your anxiety is coming from in a relationship of discourse. So those are the things that I would want to kind of discuss. Like, hey, during the evaluation, like let's start probing out from there. Now, because it is private practice, we got to get down on this. Like, let's get some things nailed to concrete. But as we start having conversations, as we start moving about, how can I put the finance? And that's the same thing I did with the VA, not from the rip. When people are coming to me with the VA, when I was in that sober living environment, you're homeless. I had one dude that didn't even have clothes. Okay, we need to get you food. We need to get clothes. Your house. What about your medications? What about your appointments? Okay, let's get those things taken care of. Those are the higher priority things. Now let's start talking finances. I'm going to kind of take the same model and apply it here. And there is a lot of Proverbs. I mean, was it Proverbs 18? I mean, there's talking a lot about like not going into debt, to be wise with your money. I mean, Jesus during, I think it's Matthew chapter 6 or chapter 7, discussing not getting money or ensuring that you have enough money before you build a tower. Like these are the things that it's spoken about in scripture that we can apply those same principles nowadays. Like it's nothing, according to my belief system of Christianity, like scripture is still relevant now than it was previously. Like it's still true. It's inerrant, it's infallible. And I take that very seriously. And when I see even 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, I mean, Proverbs was written a long time ago. These principles were still talked about then. This is like a sinful issue, right? So if we look at this as sin, this is our fallen nature. This is who we are. And you know what? It's great to see that we found a way in the 21st century to integrate how we do finances and therapy together. And then adding faith on top of it, it would just be referring back to scripture of what Jesus said, what Proverbs, countless other things throughout the Bible that I can reference. And there's other, great pastors, and I would even say priests as well. There's a lot of good things that they offer. Church fathers using those are more tools, more evidence of why people should manage their money better, of why they should be more conscientious of how they spend their money, more conscientious of what they're doing with their money in general. Like, do you even know what's going on with money? Do you even know how to budget? Like, these are the things that we need to discuss. It all blends together nicely. It's just a lot of competing things at the same time based upon the agency. Right.
So I'm just curious, have you looked into getting certified with like the Dave Ramsey coaching platform or anything like that? Or is that something that you're looked into at any point, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I have. Actually, I'm reading Dave Ramsey right now. Like I said, I still goofed up when I was in the military. I'm still learning, trying to build myself out. The certification I went through now is great. If I want any more acronyms, all the acronyms would be great. I don't know if I would be wanting to do the coach through them themselves. I mean, I might. I haven't really thought about it too much. I think with the CFSW, I think the skill set that we have, it's sufficient for what we need to do. I don't know how much more coaching, but that's not to say not networking and learning and putting more things into the toolkit. I just don't know if this certification is needed, but they have a fantastic program. I love Financial Peace University. I feel like they have, Dave Ramsey has a great, like the 7 baby steps are fantastic. I also like Susie Orman. Susie, debt snowball versus debt avalanche. So he likes the psychological route for the debt snowball, which makes sense. But debt avalanche, go with your highest interest first because that saves you money in the long run. Tomato, I mean, whatever works for you. But these are There's a lot of resources out there that, just knowing debt snowball versus debt avalanche, which one resonates with my client better? You like that one? Let's tackle that. Let's build a goal. What's our objectives? Let's push on.
Yeah. Well, and that kind of segues into our last little segment. With the last period of time that we have, I just wanted to see if you could give some good, just some general financial advice. 'Cause this is Money in the Military, and we're talking to the military community right now. So let's think of an active duty member. Like, since you were active duty, what is some concrete advice that you would give to an active duty member, to manage their finances better?
Yeah, you don't need a new car. Just because you have BAH, your housing paid for, and you got food, you can go hit the chow hall. Good for you, but you still have a future. You're young. It is, you want to go have fun with the friends and such, which is fine. You find a way to budget fun time. The military forever, right? Like that due to injuries and trauma. I wish I had a savings account. Like, even though the doesn't mean you lose the next day, just like any other job. Like, you need to have a savings account. And if you have debt, you don't need to be having fun, right? Or not as much fun. Like, you need to be paying that off. Thinking that your life is right now in that moment is not good. That's not where you need to be. You need to be thinking, I can have fun, but I need to make sure future, in my case, future Matt is taken care of, because current Matt isn't taking care of future Matt, and future Matt's gonna be very upset with past Matt. So kind of thinking those circumstances of like, what can I do now that's fun? What do I need to do? But how am I going to take care of myself in the future? And if you're not taking care of yourself in the future, that's a problem, right? If you're not going to the gym, if you're not taking care of yourself, like modeling good behavior, what we do as social workers, like, am I eating right? Am I not smoking? Am I not, all those things. If I'm not doing, if I'm smoking or not eating well, I'm doing this, how can I model good behavior for my clients? It's the same thing, same principle here. How are you going to take care? How are you modeling how you want your future self to be, right? I mean, Dave Ramsey says, live like today, or how's that work? If you don't live like today, you're not going to live like everybody else tomorrow, however that saying goes.
Yeah.
You got to do things different from your peers. And if you're not going to do that, then you're setting yourself up for failure. And as Marines, we don't fail. And it's not in our vocabulary. We just adjust and we keep moving. Take care of yourself, because no one else is going to do it for you. The government ain't going to do it for you. The VA ain't going to do it for you. No one's going to take care of you but yourself. And that's when you recognize like how on your own you are, it's kind of scary. It kind of like shakes you up a little bit. Like, because Social Security probably isn't going to be around for me. That means I don't have Social Security. At any point, service connection go away. I cannot have my service connection money. Then what? Yeah. I mean, these things are real. I remember government shutdowns. I didn't get paid. I didn't have a savings account. That was scary. Oh, and here comes Navy Federal. Like, hey, we got loans for you. Let's just dig you deeper. And it's like realizing the bank isn't your friend. The credit union isn't your friend. The government isn't going to be there to bail you out. You have to take care of yourself, because no one else will.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's great advice. Like, it's one of those things where, I wish we could just implant that idea into some of these young service members' heads, and really, have that resonate and marinate and actually have them take action. Because that's the other thing. I've noticed that you can tell somebody till you're blue in the face exactly what they need to do, but until you get them to change their behaviors, it's just in one ear and out the other, So I think that's one of the challenges of the financial world, is like the behavioral side of things. So that's just part of our charge as financial social workers. And I'm just really excited to see fellow financial social workers, and I'm always down to network and grow and develop, because I'm new to the financial social work space, but I'm seeing a lot of great things happening, and I just want to be a part of it and encourage people to other social workers to look into the financial social work model, and just look into it. Just see what you might be surprised, because like the training certification process will actually put you through your own financial journey and your own healing. So
it's hard.
I think, even without the certification, I think it's a great great experience that everyone should go through as social workers.
Agreed.
But yeah, it's and actually Dr. Parks commented, she said, "Thank you for sharing. Faith is really big in my community as well when it comes to helping individuals make financial decisions that align with their values." So that's one of those things that I try to advocate for, is make your spending align with what you actually care about, because a lot of times people spend on things that they don't actually care about, you know.
Absolutely.
So man, like the time just kind of flew by. We're gonna have to do this again, because I probably have I had all these questions that I wanted to ask. I asked a few of them, but there's just so much more that I would like to kind of pick your brain and learn more. And it seems like the conversation has resonated with some people. So, you know, hopefully we can have you back on down the road. And you know, like, while you're on this new journey in your new job, I wish you the best. Did you have any last parting words for now? Anything that you want to say to the audience?
Not without going on for another hour, no. But I would love to come back on. Feel free to shoot me another message. I would be glad to come on, continue the conversation, share whatever insights I may have. I might just wing it a little bit, you know, who knows. But yeah, I would love to come back on.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right. Well, that's our show for today, everyone. This has been Money in the Military. I'm Joey, the fire social worker, and this is Matt Rich, a certified financial social worker, wears many hats. Check him out on LinkedIn. And thank you for everyone that participated in the stream. Anyone who is going to watch after the fact, you know, have comments, and we'll address them, and maybe we'll talk about your comments on another stream. So thanks again for everybody. Thank you, Matt, for jumping in on the stream, and we'll catch you on the next stream.
Take care, y'all.
All right. Bye-bye.